So let me let you keep going.
Yeah.
In your current role,
Yeah.
big data.
Yeah.
So what role will big data play in helping to fill some of the gaps in care?
Yeah,
that
so
exist?
there are two really easy questions here that are going to make things better for everybody. The first is transparency. So you guys know I love arguing with you about pathways. Pathways become irrelevant, right? Pathways become irrelevant because what we're going to have is outcomes that can be measured and presented to the patient, and no patient wants to choose a more toxic, inferior regimen, right? Nobody chooses that. So I think transparency in quality and outcomes. And the second thing is a bidirectional opportunity for really, for once in my lifetime, getting patient-reported outcomes. Because when a patient is making a treatment decision, presuming they are participating in shared decision-making in the fashion that we would like them to, they don't really care that 18% of patients have neutropenic fever. They want to know if I'm going to have neutropenic fever. And in fact,
And what is a neutropenic fever?
and what is a neutropenic
And
fever?
how long am I going to be off?
Right, what does it mean?
Right.
What does it mean?
Right.
So all that stuff is actually answerable, right, in the universe of big data.
Yeah.
Whether it's a biological marker, a sociological marker, race, I don't know. There's a million possible explanations for why things happen. Right now, we apply population statistical rules for clinical decision making because it's the best we got, but it's not the best we can have. So the idea that we can say, all right, so somebody comes in to see me and we talk about the therapy options, and that patient can actually see what patients just like me experienced. Just think about how sweet that'll be. I had dinner last night with Rich Shilsky and Steve Gruffs from ASCO, and I said, guys, it's going to be so different. Now, I won't be taking care of patients when this happens, but it's going to be different. Because we'll sit down and we'll say, okay, look, so these are the treatment options, and these so somebody just like you, with your biological markers and from Southern California, all that other stuff, this is what happens to people like you when they get treated this way, and this is how much it costs. Not how much it costs based on what your deductible is, how much I'm going to be expected to pay on the first day. Right? Because that's what's important to me. So I get really juiced about it because I think that data is the key to delivering that. And when we say personalized care, I don't want to talk about next-gen sequencing. That's fine. That's a piece of it. I talk about the whole comprehensive view of what happens to somebody like me. Right.
Yeah, great. And I'm just thinking as you're talking, so we had a chance to sit with the folks from the NCI yesterday, and we were having conversations about how do you integrate metrics other than sort of the traditional metrics into clinical trial design so that you are collecting data on time off work, transportation. We know that disruption to work family life has a significant impact on a person's likelihood to develop a clinical diagnosis of depression. So I think about the ability to collect those type of metrics, whether it be in a clinical trial or it be in real-world trials.
Yeah,
right?
I'm too old to wait for the clinical trial things to change, so I'm going to look towards real-world evidence because I think that's where the money is. Yeah.
Because when I think about Jaquetta's patients, they don't have time to think about,
They don't.
I'm going to have to take 3 hours off work
Right.
to go in every week, right? Because they're working jobs that don't have,
Right.
if they're working,
Right.
if they're
If
able
they're
to work,
working-
right?
if they're
They're
able
working
to
jobs
work.
that don't have health
Nope, they're working
cover.
hourly jobs that don't have, standard leave or vacation benefits, so.
Yeah. So how do we get there? And how do we get there fast? And so I'll just make the offer for everyone in the room to say, let us know how we can help you in what you're doing at Flatiron to make that happen faster for us. So I'm going to pivot to the room to see what questions that you might have of our panelists who, as you can see, are living what we've reported out every day of the week.
Thank you. Jaquetta and I just spent last week at the Patient Navigation Conference, so I know we're on the same page in terms of we think that every patient needs a patient navigator, so I have a very simple question. VJ, did you have a navigator? And
No.
How would your experience been different if you had worked with a navigator or a social worker or someone who could have helped you through the experience?
The first time it would have been dramatic because I had no experience. And, at 32, you never expect to have cancer. And so for that experience, yes, it would have been invaluable and it probably would have cut my anxiety and stress and everything a lot. The second time, I don't really believe that it would have helped me a whole lot because I was so sophisticated. I already been there, done that, and I knew how to navigate the system. I also, because I'd been dealing with it for so long, I'm the one that my insurance company denied my last stage of reconstruction, which I had thought was illegal, but I found out individual policies weren't covered by the 1998 Women's Health and Cancer Rights Act. So I had been fighting for my rights for a long time. So I don't know that it would have helped me the second time, but that's me. I think it would have helped other people. I did want to make a comment to something that you had mentioned. Since 2010, I have had 5 different insurance policies. And each time the insurance changes, I have to change doctors. And my oncologist goes in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. And I've stayed with the same guy and I've not switched, whereas other services I have been forced to. So the last time I was able to see my oncologist this year, I'd not seen him in 3 years, and he goes, "Oh, goody, you're a new patient, so we can spend time chatting." And I asked him specifically, "Why weren't you in my last insurances through the ACA?" And he says, "Look, we'll take Medi-Cal, Medicaid, you're obviously here. We'll take anybody, like you said." He says, "They didn't want me." So it may be the large universities and everything won't accept that patient, but I know that in my area, my oncologist would take anything they gave him, and the providers for the ACA didn't want him. He was having patients drive an hour and a half because he was the only oncologist in their network. So anyway, I hope that answers your question.
Hi, I'm Kyle Gasway with Talk Media News. My question is for Jaqueta, specifically about healthcare discrimination for LGBTQ community. Can you talk a little bit about that, either from the doctor's perspective or I guess those that are uninsured? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So discrimination in healthcare based on sexual orientation or gender identity is still a very big issue, whether it's perceived or real. So a lot of my clients delay care or delay preventative measures like screenings because they've had negative healthcare experiences in the past, and oh, well, what if this doctor discriminates against me? I've been to this hospital before, even though I've seen a different doctor. And frankly, sometimes providers are not as well versed or as well educated formally, so it's not something that is a huge part of medical school education. It's growing now. It's a new frontier in med school, but sometimes doctors just don't feel confident working with the populations and addressing their unique and special healthcare needs. So it is an issue, but it is something that I work on every day, and especially in this area in DC, it is kind of, again, the next frontier.